The Jimenos were shameless about their hatred of the Everetts on the family Chantel, delivering some harsh burns that were out of line. In July of 2022, Pedro Jimeno filed for divorce from Chantel Everett, ending of the relationship that introduced the pair to 90 Day Fiancé viewers before spinning off into its own series, The Family Chantel. Few fans should be surprised the marriage ended after years of heated fights and arguments between Pedro, Chantel, and their families. The Family Chantel showed viewers plenty of moments that demonstrated the ways extended families can be toxic enough to put relationships in jeopardy. It wasn't a secret that the Everetts and the Jimenos disliked each other, because both sides spoke their antipathy loud and clear. However, the Jimenos were more shameless about their hatred, delivering some harsh burns that were often out of line. Nicole was always brutally honest, and she frequently said mean things. She kept her words simple, though. Instead of weaving elaborate, poetic insults, she'd usually opt for the first thing that came to her mind to hurt Chantel or her family. One of the most straightforward things she ever said to Chantel was simply, "Your family is horrible." She didn't elaborate, probably because she didn't speak much English. Nonetheless, her to-the-point statement boiled Chantel's blood. Nicole seemed to enjoy being mean for its own sake, and she relished in upsetting Chantel. When Chantel was jealous of Nicole's friend, Karima, and thought Pedro had been involved with her, Pedro's sister took advantage of Chantel's insecurities by confirming her suspicion. There were many signs that Pedro and Chantel were going to divorce, but that moment when Nicole yelled to Chantel that Pedro has slept with her friend was one of the biggest red flags. Whether it was true or not is irrelevant. Few relationships can weather such toxic family members. Lydia believed that one of the things people needed to know about Chantel Everett is that she is selfish. She said it repeatedly throughout the seasons. It was bad enough that she called Chantel a problem, but to then call her selfish was a bit too mean. The comment stuck with Chantel throughout her marriage, although she was convinced that she earned everything she demanded from Pedro. However, Lydia's burn made her question whether she was doing the wrong thing or simply asking for what she deserved. The cultural differences between the Everetts and the Jimenos were always palpable and a big problem. Both families expected the other to change and adapt to their traditions and customs, but neither of them made any significant effort to do so. After Chantel asked Pedro's family to change their ways to adapt to their new life in America, Lydia had none of it. Instead, she reminded Chantel that Pedro was not American and neither was his family. After Chantel complained about how Pedro kept sending money to her mother and sister in the Dominican Republic and how he treated his family better than her, Nicole snapped and aggressively asked Chantel if she would prefer for her mom Lydia to live under a bridge. The reply was subtle yet hostile, and in truth, it was a fair observation. Nicole may be one of the least liked members of the cast in the family Chantel, but she did have a point when she said this mean comment. After all, why couldn't Pedro financially support his family? There were many occasions when the Everetts almost ruined Pedro and Chantel's relationship, and most of the time it was because they meddled too much in their marriage. They often convinced Chantel to do or demand things she probably wouldn't have thought of on her own. The Everetts were indeed very tight, and Karen had a strong influence on her daughter, Chantel, as Lydia pointed out in this hurtful comment. However, Chantel did not disrespect Pedro as much as he disrespected her. Lydia didn't like the Everetts one bit, but despite her aggressive comments, she usually tried to keep her composure out of respect for her son's new family. In this spicy comment, though, she admitted what she really wanted to do was start a physical altercation. Fortunately, it never came to that. But the mean comment was very insulting to Karen, who, considering how much she invested in her looks, was definitely upset by what Lydia said. The Everetts often expressed their belief that the Jimenos were using Chantel to get all the benefits of the American economy. When Chantel finally confronted them about this, Nicole and Lydia were not thrilled about the complaints. Chantel felt entitled to claim that they were using her money, but Nicole was quick to point out how powerful and important Chantel felt, when she in fact was not doing a favor to them and was just complicating their lives. Lydia was thrown out of the place where she was having a conversation with the Everetts that unsurprisingly turned into a fight. However, Lydia was not sad or upset about being kicked out, and she let everybody know that she had been thrown out of better places. With a smart but harsh burn, she quickly let everybody know that she didn't care if she was no longer part of the conversation. Probably she was relieved to finally leave a family that had been a pain in the neck to her. Lydia told all the Everetts that they were a bad example of an American family, although she probably had a stereotypical image about what an American family is, and most families from the States don't actually fit that mold. The comment was mean, but Karen immediately refuted the accusation by insisting that everyone in the family is hardworking and independent, which was definitely the right defense.